Fun fact, I've been trying to get this video going and I keep doing something wrong. Clearly, I'm not meant to do these things. But today I wanted to showcase MangoWC or Mango Wayland Compositor. I've been using it now for about a month or so. I started in Hyperland and switched over because it allowed me to do a couple things that Hyperland did not. So not to say Hyperland is not good. Hyperland is great. I still have it as one of my specific desktop environments, even though it's not a true desktop environment. But I still sort of set it up and run it, and it works pretty good for me. The reason why I came here is because Mango allows me to use both the Neri and the Hyperland layouts, so the tiling plus the scrolling. And I could switch between those, and it kind of gives me a few other things. The one thing Mango doesn't have, and it's something I know a lot of the members in the Discord have asked for, is the window/spiral view. I don't share the same sentiments because I never really used it before, but I understand why people have it. But there's other modes in here that kind of give you similar effects, and maybe through this video you may see some of those. So what is the tiling modes that it supports? So let me show you here on my specific status bar here. So there is the tiling mode, which is left tile. Then you have your center tile, which is what I'm currently in. You have your right tile, which is a mode that is the opposite of your regular tile, meaning regular tile will show you masters on the left, right tile will show you masters on the right. And I'll showcase that. And then we got vertical tile. And the last one that I'm going to include as part of this group is going to be the vertical grid. Even though vertical grid is not titled as tile, for me, I kind of use it as part of the tiling tool sets. And I'll showcase that too as well. So let me start off by going to the tile mode. So right now I'm in a way where if I only have one window, it's always going to take up 100% of my monitor space, or at least the space that I have allocated for my desktop. So if I open up a new window, which we're going to do that by doing this, they go into sort of side by side. And let me go ahead and use Figlet here to kind of showcase all my different windows. So if I open up a new window, this becomes the next one, and then the third one will take up in the same space, and they kind of begin to share the same amount of space. So if this was Hyperland will start dividing up each space. In this case, it's not doing that. It's just adding to the non-master area. So masters are, in this case, on the left, and every new window will always spawn on the right, and it will share space with the current non-master windows. If I was in the right tile mode, unfortunately, I have to click this. I don't use this mode, so I don't have it key binded. But if I have to use this mode, then it's going to be one of those things where the master is now on the right and the non-masters are on the left. I use the center tile mode, which is a little bit different. So right off the bat, you notice that there's 3 columns. This is probably the only thing that I personally would love to see in the regular tile mode, because the regular tile mode will allow you to have multiple columns, for example. So in this case, it's only doing in this case, this one's only doing 2 columns, and this one does 2 columns for the non-masters. And I kind of really like this mode. If I was to use all of them, this is probably the one that I use the most, which is why by kind of like default, if you look at all my other ones, they're all center tile, and you could just look here because it shows you what mode I'm in. So let me go back to the first one. Okay, so what are some of the other modes that it has in regards to tiles? I mentioned vertical tile, so let me showcase that. In vertical tile, in my opinion, this is probably more if your screen's in vertical mode, where the top will, your screen's this way, so the top will be the big chunk up there, and then all your other windows at the bottom. You can adjust what you set your default width of your master. Let me go back here. So you can choose the default here. I'll go into the settings for that here in a little bit to kind of showcase that. But the other mode that I wanted to showcase before I go there is the grid mode. And so grid will make equal size windows for all the different windows you have. So let me add here 5th, right? So if I add a 6th window, it's going to split this up a little bit differently. So it's sorry, not 6th, that's 7th window. It's going to go ahead and now shrink all the ones, but now it's kind of spreading and making them all equal. So you've noticed they're all equal size. The 2 in the bottom are not splitting in half. They're still equal sizes of sort of thirds. And then if I add yet another one, it's going to change it to quarter width for each one. And then everything else is using a third of the height. So that's kind of how this mode works here. This is another mode that I do use quite a lot if I'm doing some of my work, not my hobby work, but my actual work, where sometimes I may have a couple different screens looking at a couple different monitorings and stuff like that. So this is kind of how it goes. There is a setting here where you can make it where if a new window opens up, it becomes the master. I have that set to off because if I open up a window, usually I want to keep working in the master, and I'm only opening up supporting windows. And your workflow may be different, so that may be a setting you change. When I go into the settings, I'll discuss those. And then the other thing you could change too, and I've keybinded this and I'll showcase this now, is I have the ability to increase and decrease the number of masters. So in this case here, where we have our 5 non-masters on the right and we have our master on the left, I could add a second master screen. And so what that would do is it's going to go ahead and have 2 on the left and 4 on the right. And if I add another one, it will be 3 and 3. They're not aligned correctly. Usually if I go between all my different modes, my alignment kind of gets mixed up. But that's because of the way I have certain things set up. But with that said, you could kind of play around with the number of masters as well as so increase, but you can also decrease and kind of go back into this layout. And that's also true here. So if I want to add another master, now I have 3 columns and yet again another master and yet again another master. So there's different ways to kind of play around with these views, but it gives you the ability to really tweak settings and you kind of like your layouts to the way you like them. Let me go back to this here. And I think that should cover all the timing modes for the most part. Let me go ahead and show you the specific rule sets that I have. We're going to start off with monitors. Now, mind you, this is catered for Nix because I use Nix OS, but for the most part, this here is what will end up in your configuration. So for example, let me add this here. And if I go here, and mango config.conf, and then I go to, let's see here, will be monitor rule. It's the same, right? This is sort of kind of what I have here will show up here. I cannot modify this file because of the way NixOS works, but I'm not gonna get into that in this video. But I just want to showcase that this here just translates to this, and it's all the same if you're not on a NixOS setup. Okay, let me go back to my setup here. So first things first, in monitor settings, you have sort of this here where I have set to 55. This is where you set your specific master width, and that's very, very important because this is sort of the factor, your width factor. And so for this here, I have set this to 55. And the reason why I say this is because you could also change that inside of your config. So, oops, I don't know why I went over there when I could go in here. So let me go to look and feel. So if I go to my master stack here, you notice that I also have this set up here to 45, but it's not going to respect it because my monitor setting is set to 55. So something to keep in mind when you're playing around with your settings is that you want to make sure some of these match, because if not, then it is definitely going to be, you know, kind of go back and forth. I just noticed something in my layout. This guy here, the SM fact, that's supposed to be for something else. But anyways, let me go ahead and start going off with my settings. So new is master. This setting here is used if I open up a new window, it becomes the master. As I mentioned, I have this off, meaning that if I open up a window, it's always going to go to the non-master sides. If I had this to on, then it would have taken over the current center screen. So keep that in mind when you're playing with that. Smart gaps, just kind of aligns the gaps to be pretty equal. Like I have my border gaps and stuff like that. So I always have that on. The master fact, this is for the width, how much factor you have on your width. I have a 45, but as I showed you, my monitor is a little bit different. And then the number of masters, this is if you want to have 2 or 3 or 4, so forth. I start off with 1 because this is sort of my working layout. So those are the different settings you have for the master stack layout or the tiling mode. So just keep that in mind. Reason why it's called master stack is because it means that the master is so let me show this. Master is on the left and everything else is stacked on the right. So something to keep in mind. But for the most part, these are my settings here. Yes, there's animations and all these other things. You could ignore that for now, but I just wanted to show what I use for my masters. And the other thing you could do too, let me exit here. Do I have a layout? No, I don't have, or even tags. You could set default tags to be a certain way if you wanted that. I have I'll show you my Windows rules, I guess. Maybe we'll show this. So certain windows are floating, certain windows, have different ways of doing things. And that has just to do with the way I kind of set up my items here. But just keep that in mind, as well as you could have window rules, tag rules, and so forth. And maybe I'll make another video for that. I just wanted to showcase the specific tiling modes or master stack modes. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer. I'm also on the Discord, the official Mango Discord. Mind you, I'm not a developer or part of the development team. I'm just a community member. I contribute with help and support whenever people have questions or anything like that. I do my best to answer them. So you will see me in there. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I will do my best to answer. Wishing you guys all a great weekend. Enjoy your day. Hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.